The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests, and are not those of Pesmo Radio, its employees or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements of any radio show programs or products mentioned on air, on our website, social media accounts, and marketing materials. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Pesmo Radio, its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing Pesmo Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to the Songwriter Show. I'm your host, Sarantos. I'm a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are very important to me, and that's why I'm thrilled to host this show for you every Tuesday evening. I strongly believe that every song is a story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on #1 ranked Pesmo Radio and has listeners in all 206 countries in the world and every state in the U.S. The station is licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange, and has partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. Tonight's guest is Aimee Mayo. Aimee is a Grammy-nominated songwriter and author. Her songs have spent 26 weeks at #1 on the Billboard charts and have sold over 155 million units worldwide. She is one of the few females to receive both BMI's Country Song of the Year and Songwriter of the Year, putting her in the rare company of Dolly Parton and Taylor Swift. She lives in Nashville with her husband Chris and their children Levi, Oscar, Lola, and Truman, and their dogs, Girlfriend and Batman.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Welcome to the show, Aimee. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited, too. So, your dog's Girlfriend and Batman. I love that. Where did you come up with those names?
Well, my daughter named Batman, and he is so not a Batman. He's like a pug with a weight problem and a diaper. There's nothing cool about him. But then my dog Girlfriend, I don't know, it's kind of like the female name for Buddy. Like, she's just my best little girlfriend.
That's awesome.
I'm dog crazy. I love dogs.
Oh, how can you not be? I saw the coolest video. I follow Mark Hamill on Twitter, and he retweeted something where this little dog went jumping into, off a cliff into this body of water. And it was the coolest thing, and it was, fearless. I'm like, how can you not love dogs?
Oh, I know. They're just so sweet, and they always love you.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your story. How did you start down this road of songwriting, authorship? What got you going in this direction?
Well, okay, it's kind of crazy to jump right into it, but what kind of started it for me is when I was 8 years old, my dad shot himself. And he didn't die, but it was awful. So he shot himself, and the way I was at my grandmother's when everybody found out, and so my grandmother grabbed a gift from under the tree and she put me in my uncle's bedroom. Well, the gift that I unwrapped was my first diary. And so from that night on, I just poured out everything into diaries. And so
wow.
The crazy thing is, my dad survived and everything, but at the time we were technically homeless and we never had anything. But my dad went on to be a songwriter, and that's all I've ever wanted to do.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That was in Alabama. I grew up in Alabama.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Was your dad an influence on you?
Oh, yeah. My book I was telling you about, Talking to the Sky, it started after he died, but he was a huge influence on me. When I was 8, that's when I wrote my first song, And my dad, my parents got divorced not long after he shot himself. And my dad like disappeared for a little bit. But when he came back into town, we went to a movie, and it was like the first time I'd seen him since they got divorced. And we went to see that movie, the Buddy Holly story. And so do you know that movie?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's an old movie. But when we left the theater, I told him, I was like, I'm going to be a songwriter when I grow up. Because I'd seen them watch us. They wrote a song in that movie. And it was like that. When I saw them write, I'd never really thought about where a song comes from. And so from then on, I wanted to be a songwriter. But the crazy thing is, so a few months later, my dad had been spending time in Nashville, but I'd never seen him write or anything. And a few months later, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. On the ride up to my grandmother's that night, my dad was like, what makes you think you can be a songwriter? And I said, because I got a title, and my title was If Only I Could Hold You Again. And then my dad shot back and said, if only I could hold you again, I'd always let you know. We got into this song, if only I could hold you again, I'd never let you go, and I'd always let you know that you had a friend, if only I could hold you again. So he made, a couple months later, he made me this little 45 record. It was actually a demo, but it had when I saw our names on it, when I saw my name on it, that's when I was hooked. That's when I knew that's all I ever want to do.
Yeah, wow, that's very cool. I'm sure your father taught you many things, but what was the thing he taught you not to do?
Well, it's weird because he never, we wrote that song together, but he never encouraged me of being a writer. I think because being a female, and back then, he just didn't think I could do it, I guess. I mean, he never encouraged me about it. And the thing he made me he actually caused me a lot of problems because he told me I was tone deaf. So when I got to Nashville, I was afraid to sing in front of anybody. It was it took so much. It took that singer, Martina McBride, and my husband's the one that got me starting to sing a few demos. But then Martina McBride loved my voice, and I ended up getting offered a record deal, but I didn't take it. That was never my dream. My dream was always just to write songs.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, that's a wonderful dream to have, and I think you've made your dream come true. When you look at your songwriting process specifically, how do you get started? Do you start with melody, a drum groove, lyrics? How do you get started?
Well, I don't play an instrument, so that words have always been the love of my life. And so I always start out with words. I do hear a lot of melodies, and it seems like most of the time my lyrics come with a melody. Even if it gets changed, when I hear it in my head, it's always with a melody. But then sometimes I'll just hear something in conversation that'll sound like a title. But I almost always start with words.
Okay.
With lyrics.
Okay. And how often do you try to write? Do you write daily, just when the mood strikes, weekly? Do you have a pattern?
Well, through the years, I've written, I used to write every day like a job, and a lot of times twice a day. And it was my job, actually. I had a bunch of different publishing deals, but the last couple years, I haven't, it's been a totally different deal, because while I was writing songs, I was also writing my book, and my book is my biggest dream. I mean, I'm a songwriter at heart, but this book, I feel like, is my purpose. And so, the last couple years, I've only written I only wrote 3 songs last year, I think. And one of them's the one I sent you, the one that Tim McGraw recorded.
Yeah.
But I've been working on my book so much, it's taken over my life, but in a good way.
Tell us a little bit about this book. What do you want us to know about it?
It's a memoir, and I've been so excited because the feedback's been so good. Like, my favorite memoir was The Glass Castle. It was a movie a couple years ago, and the author of that book, she loved my book, and she gave me a blurb for the front. And the book is just about going after your biggest dream. I mean, like, my life story is so crazy, just from having a bipolar dad who, like, he went from, like, we went homeless, and then he made millions, and then he died homeless, and he was only 49 when he died. That's when I started the book. But the story is just about going after your dream against all odds. Like, when I finally made it to Nashville, before I even knew what happened, I ended up in an abusive marriage, and I was married to a singer, but he was hitting me. It was awful. I never got away from him. It was really bad.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I think it made me, it made me who I am. It made me tougher. And that's that's my biggest thing with the book, is I just want to encourage people to go after their dream, even if it seems impossible, to just start taking steps, in that direction.
Yeah. You're going to have to send me a link to that so I can share it on social media too whenever it's out.
I will. It's out. Yeah. It's on Amazon.
Oh, yeah, definitely send me a link. I can share that afterwards too. Yeah,
it took 15 years to write, so I'm so happy it's out. Like, it's just the biggest relief in the world. And I've had so many, like, of my friends, like, that have cut my songs through the years come out. Like, Kenny Chesney posted about it last week, about the book. And then Tim McGraw's supposed to be posting any day now. Like, I just emailed again. I gave him the book a couple weeks ago.
Wow, that's really cool. The names you're dropping like it's nothing. That's really cool.
Well, I've just known them so long. After I got out of that abusive marriage, like, Kenny Chesney was one of my first friends, and he was like, we were both broke. We were just like, we both, like, didn't know, if we would ever make it at all. And he had a record deal, but he got dropped. It's so crazy looking back, like, I've just watched so many people just become superstars. Like, it's really wild to know them before and then see the reactions they get from people and everything.
Yeah.
Like Taylor Swift, we met her when she was 14.
Wow.
My husband's a songwriter too. When I say we, his name's Chris Lindsay. And we've written a bunch of our hits together, and then we've written some separate.
Wonderful. We have a caller, Jenny. She's asking, the music scene, songwriting, the whole music thing, is it tougher on women than men? She seems to think it is. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think it used to be, but I don't know that it is anymore. The only thing I think right now that's really tough, is that there's not enough women on the radio. And it's really sad, because when I first moved to Nashville, there were so many more women on the radio, like some of the biggest artists, Shania and the Dixie Chicks, and there were just so many of them. And now it's like girls are struggling so bad to get on the radio. But I did see one interesting thing, like a couple weeks ago. That was like, in the last 10 years, out of the Grammy winning songs, there was more women on them. There was more women writers than men.
Wow, that's great. That's progress.
So I thought that was big progress. But the sad thing is, almost all the songs were sang by men, but a bunch of them were written by women.
Yeah, that's great. Tell us a little bit about your average week. What do you do in an average week?
Well, when I'm writing songs, like, pretty much we would meet, we have a studio at our house, or it's a little separate from our house, but people always would write here just because we got just such an awesome setup. And so somebody would come over, whoever we were writing with, and we would usually start at 11 and then get done like around 4:30. And if it was like a great song and we wanted to finish it that day, sometimes we'd get done around, later, like 6 or 7. Yeah,
I'm sure you lose track of time, right? When you're kind of into it and you're kind of jamming with someone else. Yeah.
Totally. I always feel like, though, that like in a co-write for me, like I'm a fast writer. I don't like to, some writers think they got to be in agony the whole time. I'm not like that. A bunch of the biggest songs I've had happen quick. And, you know, you'll go back and edit, but the magic of them happens quick a lot of times.
Yeah, I totally get you. I think one of the things, you know, I've been in this game about 8 years, and one of the biggest things I've learned is I used to believe, I'm inspired, you know, never edit it. And then I realized, no, you have your inspiration, and then you can go back and edit. And really, that's where a lot of the magic happens. But I think that's a great point, what you just said. You can't be too analytical in the beginning, in the inspiration stage.
What are a couple things you've learned, like the biggest things?
The biggest thing, editing, because like I said, I would just randomly, I've been writing lyrics since 4th grade, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but I've been taking songwriter lessons with Jai Josephs, who's out in the West Coast, probably for about 5 years. He's taught me everything from scansion, melody, groove, all these things that I had no idea about, varying sections. I think the other thing that people don't do is you got to vary the sections, you know, your rhyme pattern, your melody. It shouldn't all sound the same. And some of my older stuff, when I was screwing around by myself, it all sounded the same. Verse might sound a little different than the chorus, but certainly something didn't change like every, 4 to 8 bars. I think music is just fascinating when you listen to it. I think you can learn a lot from the radio.
Oh, yeah. I think if I was going to tell people to study, like about what you just said, like about a song being dynamic and not like for me, like I love a great surprise, like whether it's the chorus jumping out or the bridge, like, and the people I think are so good to study on that, just that specific thing about dynamics of a song. Taylor Swift is a genius at the way she puts a song together. I've kind of studied it. Yeah. I mean, I wrote with her and stuff a long time ago, but she was great then, but she's a million times better now. But she is so good she never lets you get bored. Usually the verse is about 30 seconds, then the channel or bridge or whatever you want to call that's about 15, and then the chorus is about 30, and she uses that same, line out on every song. And like Ryan Tedder of One Republic, he's like that too. He's a good one to study. I've loved studying his stuff.
Absolutely. I'm trying to remember the show, Songland. Have you seen Songland?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a great show. That's just... Yeah, awesome.
It is great. I love that show. I've written with Ryan, like we've written 3 songs. Every song I wrote with him got cut. He's probably the most talented person I've written. Well, Taylor's talented too, but we didn't get any cuts together. But with Ryan Tedder, like I just loved writing with him. Yeah. And then Shane McAnally, he's so funny. Do you know him?
I mean, I know who he is. Obviously, I've never worked with him, but he seems like a great dude.
He's so great. He loves my book, and I was so happy whenever like some of my people that are like my writing heroes, whenever they like love the book, it just means so much. But he sent me a few different messages like that. He's like, I'm in love with this book, and he just goes on and on about it. I'm going to get him to do like a little video talking about the book just because he's so passionate about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. Tell us a little bit about, do you have anything big planned other than the book in the next year or two? Anything you're working on that you want to share with us?
Yes, there is one thing. I haven't got started. I mean, I've been planning it for a long time, but this virus has to settle down a little bit before I can do some of this stuff. But so since I worked on the book for 15 years and I had this whole like party planned, I had already told Blake Shelton, I'm doing it at his little club, Old Red. And I don't know if you've ever heard about that club, but it's so awesome. It's got like 3 floors. But so I'd been planning this book release party for over a decade. And then all the virus stuff started, and there was no way I could wait anymore about putting my book out just because it had already been so long. But I'm going to do a re-release with a soundtrack. So I'm real excited about writing for that soundtrack.
Awesome. So we have another question from a listener, Dave. He He's asking if you love your time in Nashville, if you ever see yourself moving, or if you think that's the best place for a songwriter.
For sure, it's the best place for a songwriter. Now, I do see myself moving just because next year we're going to do something different for a year, because we've been here, like, my husband and me both are just kind of restless. And our daughter, she's 13. Our son's graduating high school, and then we got other kids that are already graduated. And so we're going to do something different next year. Like, we're still trying to decide between, like, we might go to Key West or we might go to Pasadena. But as far as being a songwriter, there's nowhere better that you can be than Nashville. I mean, the talent pool around here, it's just crazy how talented, and you learn something different, you know, from every person you write with. Even if we're writing with somebody that's brand new, I still kind of learn something different in every single writing appointment.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to hear your song here in about 2 minutes. Tell us a little bit about this song. What inspired it? What do you want us to take from it when we listen to it?
I love this song. Okay, so this song is, I had the idea for a long time. This friend of mine, Jaron Johnston, he's in that Cadillac 3 band. He made a post on Instagram when he lost his dog. And I had recently lost a dog too, and that post just tore me up. And so when I saw it, I got this song. He posted like some pictures, and he's like, I lost my best friend today, and he put some pictures of him and the dog. And when I saw it, I just started thinking, there is a huge song in this about losing your dog, because for some reason, when people lose a pet, they're almost embarrassed to grieve about it too much, like to other people. Like, and I've had friends that, you know, couldn't get out of bed for a week when they lost their dog. And I'm so attached to my dog Girlfriend, like I'm scared about, you know, someday. She's 8 now, but so I wanted to write a song just about, you know, like how much we love our dogs and about how painful it is when we have to let them go. And it took me 4 years to talk Jaron into writing the idea.
That's awesome.
But if there's any quality I have, my husband, this is what he says, but I just won't give up. I'll drive somebody crazy. Like, I've about driven Tim McGraw crazy about this. He told me, he made a video like with my book. So I hate that I'm still bugging him, but he told me he would do a post with it. So today I was texting again, you know, when are you going to do that post? Because it really like helps, because I ain't got that many social media followers on Instagram, because I never did it like I should have. Yeah.
I think that's great. And you know what? I think something you just harped on, never quit. I think the one thing I learned, you know, I put out my first song 8 years ago, and I kind of thought it'd go viral, and you know, all these overnight sensations have been going at it at least 10 years, and you just got to keep working hard and never quitting. And I think your story is one of perseverance too.
Oh, that's the biggest thing. That, like my book, that's what I've heard so many people say, like about just perseverance. It takes that, you know, to do anything really. And I think people are relating so much to my book because I'm such an underdog. I mean, getting to Nashville in the early 90s and then being afraid to sing in front of anybody and not playing an instrument and it being almost a male-dominated world. When I moved to Nashville, I didn't even know of another female that was just a songwriter. Like Dolly, Loretta, all of them, they recorded their own songs. They weren't trying to pitch them to other people.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. All right, Aimee, I'll tell you what. Let's take a listen to your song, and then we'll come back in about 3.5 minutes and talk some more, okay?
Perfect.
All right, Aimee, check this out, everybody. Here we go.
This Silverado seat feels empty without you in it. I still fly down them dirt roads we used to ride down, gets my good years spinning. Might get your name in a tattoo, doggone, I miss you. king-size bed has too much space without you in it. I wander around watercolor memories, my head is spinning. Yeah, I think I'll get that tattoo, doggone, I miss you. If there's one spot of sun on the porch up there, I bet you're lying right in it. Yeah, if angels wear red wing boots, I bet one turns up missing. If there's a Chevy, I bet you're shotgunning. If there's a mailman, I bet he's running. If there's hunting and fishing in heaven, I hope the good Lord lets you tag along. Doggone it, amen. Doggone man's best friend. Waiting to catch that first yellow bus, yeah, you knew I was scared. So you waited with me, and when I got back, you were waiting right there. 'Cause that's what best friends do, doggone, I miss you. My first kiss and you didn't like the girl, guess you knew something I didn't know. One heartbreak later, I guess you were right, you barked, I told you so. All colorblind, but you can see the truth, doggone, I miss you. If there's one spot of sun on a porch up there, I bet you're lying right in it. Yeah, if angels wear red wing boots, I bet one turns up missing. If there's a Chevy, I bet you're shotgunning. If there's a mailman, I bet he's running. If there's hunting and fishing in heaven, I hope the good Lord lets you tag along. Doggone it, amen. Doggone man's best friend. And I know you'll be waiting for me at the pearly white picket fence. And I'll miss you, old buddy, till then. Doggone man's best friend. Doggone it, amen.
All right, Aimee, that song was awesome. Definitely are super talented, and I think it's pretty obvious.
Oh, you're sweet.
You're welcome. Before I forget to ask you, tell us, where can the listeners buy your music, buy your books, stream your stuff? Give us a little bit about your links, your socials, whatever you want to share with the audience.
Okay, so you can buy my book on Amazon, thank God. It took forever. I decided to publish it myself, which has been nuts. Like, I just didn't want to wait. The publisher wanted to wait, and I just couldn't wait anymore. But so my book is on Amazon, Talking to the Sky. And then my music, it's crazy because I was telling somebody the other day, like, used to, like, my husband and I, like, we had our biggest hit in 2000, that song Amazed by Lone Star. It was a big...
I love that song.
You do? It was a big... Like,
oh my God,
song.
I love that song.
Yeah, that song.
Oh,
like,
wow.
What's funny is when we wrote that song, people would come up for years like, oh, that was my wedding song, and they loved it. And then after about 10 years, they're like, I hate that song because they got divorced.
That's awesome.
But back then, like, records, people bought records. You know, now it's everything streaming. It's like a whole different world. I mean, it's so different. Like, the only way as a songwriter these days that you can make money or survive or live is to have singles on the radio.
And imagine, right? I mean, you know this, a lot of the hits, they have like 6-8 songwriters. So you divvy all that money up. It's crazy.
I know.
It's hard to make a living nowadays.
It's so true. And it's like, it's funny though, because there's some people that I watch like just rack it up, and they've got like, my husband was talking to Ashley Gorley the other day, and he's had like 50 number one songs. I mean, that's crazy.
Wow.
That is crazy, because like it's just so hard to get, to get somebody to cut your song, like to even get them to listen to it. Like,
yeah.
I've been blessed and stuff with people that I started with, like a long time ago, like Tim McGraw's cut about maybe 17 or 18 of my songs. So we've kind of grown together. And then even though I've been friends with Kenny longer, he's cut like 3 of my songs. But there's some people that, if you start writing for them or with them or anything early, then you can kind of grow together, and they'll like, he's cut a ton of my songs. There's some, some people you'll just never even be able to get into their camp, because that's how it was for me with the Dixie Chicks. Cause that was the one band that I wanted a song on more than any other one.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough business, for sure.
It really is.
Aimee, if you had a band or person that you could be in a room with, dead or alive, who'd you pick?
Paul Simon.
Paul Simon, okay. Interesting.
I love Paul Simon so much.
Yeah, I mean, he's
my favorite songwriter.
Yeah.
And Paul McCartney's right behind him.
Yeah, I'm a big Beatles fan. So Sir Paul, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. My kids are like, there's no comparison. My kids are Beatles freaks. I mean, my daughter that's 13, she can name you every Beatles song. And then my son that's 18, he can name you every album and every song on that album. I mean, they're obsessed with I liked the Beatles, but they're obsessed with the Beatles.
Yeah. Aimee, tell the audience, what's the strangest compliment you've ever gotten for your lyrics?
I've gotten... Let's see. Well, I'm in the Bad Grammar Hall of Fame. That's one strange thing. I didn't even know that was a thing. But I have a song called My Best Friend that Tim McGraw cut that says, I never had no one I could count on. I've been let down so many times. And so the very first line, we've got bad grammar. So I made it in the Bad Grammar Hall of Fame.
That's funny.
And then my favorite, though, is when, like, there's a handful. I write a lot of love songs. So there was, like, My Best Friend, Amaze, Let's Make Love, like a whole bunch of love songs. But then I also, like, for some reason, like, I guess, because it's happened in my life, like with my dad died at 49 and everything. So then I started writing a lot of songs about death. And I have one song that Kenny Chesney did that's like super special to me. It's called Who You'd Be Today. And that song was about one of my friends right out of high school passed away from cancer. And so it was the craziest thing, though. This was probably 15 years ago. We were writing with that guy, Chris Stapleton, the singer. But at the time, he had been here forever, and nobody knew who he was at the time. And so when he came in our studio and I saw him, I just bursted out crying because he looked like my friend that had passed away if my friend had lived like another 10 or 15 years. And so that song, I get a lot of messages and stuff about that song. And then I've been getting a lot about the one that new one that we just played, the Doggone one by Tim.
Yeah.
Because people just love their dogs, and they're, it's like there really isn't. It's like when that happens, you really don't have anybody to talk to about it. It's such a personal kind of grief.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, Aimee, I'll tell you what, it was an absolute thrill and a pleasure to have you on the show, and I obviously wish you nothing but the best. Hopefully our paths cross, and I'd love to have you on the show again sometime, anytime you want.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for being on the show, Aimee.
Oh, yes, thank you too.
You're welcome. Now, to all the fans out there listening, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for listening. Thank you so much. I know your stories are unique. I know your time is special, and thank you for sharing some of it with us. I hope everyone's unique story gets heard around the world. My name is Sarantos. Please join me every Tuesday night to hear other amazing artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And tonight I'm going to leave you with one of my new songs that just came out called Young Love. Valentine's Day is almost here, and it's a day when love lingers in the air. Love is timeless, whether it's young or old. Valentine's Day can be one of the best or one of the most depressing days of the year for most of us, depending on what's going on in your lives. But this song's message is ultimately about being innocent and in love. We've all been there. Love has many stories. What's your story? Thank you. Have a great night. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.
We don't have much time. Time keeps running by. Let's take a chance tonight. I'll never leave your side. This just feels too right. Our hearts are bound tight on this crazy ride. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. We don't have to sex it up to have it be enough. Love you 'cause we're young. I love the way you glow. We won't be young forever. Love you 'cause you're fun. I'm hungry for your soul. Let's enjoy the night. We will be young forever. Hey, let's do all kinds of things. Let's just cut loose. This vibe is not a fluke. Let's go drink some booze. Let's go swimming nude. Nothing left to lose. Let's enjoy our youth. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. We don't have to sex it up to have it be enough. Love you 'cause we're young. I love the way you glow. We won't be young forever. Love you 'cause you're fun. I'm hungry for your soul. Let's enjoy the night. We will be young forever. Being young is fun. Young love. Being young is fun. Young fun. Being young is fun. Young fun. Being young is fun. Young love. Baby, I love you 'cause you're young. I love the way you glow. We won't be young forever. I love you 'cause you're fun. I'm hungry for your soul. Let's enjoy this night. Love you 'cause we're young. I love the way you glow. We won't be young forever. Love you 'cause you're fun. I'm hungry for your soul. Let's enjoy the night. We will be young forever.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.
Thank you for choosing Pesmo Radio.